for the people who are 20 years old today moving forward. And so the relationship will change a little bit, right? It'll be more, how can we tie all this together? And then when I need an extra layer of help, I might look for that human contact point. But 80% of it, I'm going to start to look to just pull in digital resources and tools.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the InvestPal podcast. I'm pleased to welcome Jamie Hopkins on today. Jamie is the CEO of Bryn Mawr Capital Management. They're managing $72 billion of AUA across 116 offices. He's also the founder of the FinServ Foundation, which is helping promote financial literacy and empowering the next generation of financial professionals. Jamie, I'm pleased to have you on today.
Thanks for having me on today, Cameron. I appreciate it and look forward to the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe a natural starting place, I'm somewhat young. I broke into the finance space right out of college. I'm curious if you want to talk a little bit about how you're helping out that next generation of financial professionals.
I'd love to. It's that's a good place to start, is the starting of our profession, right? Like who's going to lead this thing forward in the future? And it's an area of challenge and opportunity in the United States market for sure, is that we're seeing a declining number of financial advisors. And I think we've got more CFPs over 80 than under 30. And it's this kind of aging population. And that's scary to some degree, right? That we're not going to have enough people to serve the market that needs to be served. Flip side is if you're young and entering this profession, I think there's more opportunity to be a financial advisor, to be in financial services than there's ever been at any other period of time in the history of financial services. So, you get this kind of interesting thing, right? Challenges also bring opportunities. And I think looking back, people will look and be like, wow, that was an amazing time to enter this profession. Now, one of the good things and challenges, though, are, the university system here in the United States has gotten more involved with training, educating, and showing financial services as a profession. I think without that right now, we'd be in a lot of trouble because other people aren't career shifting in as much as they used to. But, the bad part about all this is companies have really cut back on their training, their education, their development of next-gen talent. Even though you hear all these companies talk about how important it is, when you look at them and you dive behind the scenes, the larger places have cut back those programs. They haven't expanded them. They talk about it a lot, but there's kind of a miss between what we're hearing out there in the media and what companies are actually spending money on. Spending money on next-gen talent is expensive, and it is, a long-term return. So if you see like private equity entering the space, buying firms, they haven't really forced firms to spend there. They've kind of cut some of that program for better near-term returns. So one of the things that we started a couple of years ago was something called FinServ Foundation, 501c3 nonprofit, and had a handful of companies and individuals help us with the funding. Everybody that's part of it, though, is a volunteer today. We've got about 150, 160 different volunteers that give back to FinServ. And right now, we have a little over 500 students in the FinServ Foundation Fellowship Program. And we do three things in that fellowship program. So we do 6 months of structured mentorship. So we align these students and, sometimes first-year graduates, but 90% of them are juniors that enter the program and then matriculate through. With a mentor, we give them the materials. So both the mentor and mentee have some structure. Now, they might deviate, go wherever it goes, but we provide structure and check-in calls for that. We do 24 months of group-based coaching and education, so once a month. And then we take them no cost out to a conference. We do about 4 or 5 different conferences a year. Took a little over 200 students out to conferences in the past year. And our goal too is to make it easier to enter this profession, equip them with that coaching, mentorship, and access, and also make the profession as diverse as the population we want to serve. So we're about a little bit over 50% women, and I think we're right around 50% non-white, 54%, something like that, non-white students in the program. So we've done a good job, I think, of being a little bit more representative of the total population and not just the kind of what the industry looks like today.
Right. Okay, that's very, very well done. Is it so on that note, is it typically gearing them up for a role as an investment advisor or kind of anything under the sun like investment banking, research, private equity?
So most of what we've focused on is pulling people from CFP or personal financial programs. So there's less support in that world, to be honest. If you go to business schools or you look at universities, a lot of the CFP programs don't sit there. They might sit in like the home economics. Actually, one of the CFP programs at University of Illinois sits in the agriculture school. So you get this kind of weird oddity. So they don't necessarily have the same resources and support in those. If you go to a business school and you look at somebody entering a finance program, they tend to have pretty good finance cohorts and actually alumni organizations. There's a little bit more support there. When we go to personal finance, a lot of that support drops off. And because most of these programs are new within the last decade, there isn't as strong of an alumni group that gets back together. Like me, I have an MBA from Villanova University here. There's an incredible amount of resources, support inside of that program if you're a finance accounting major, but there is no CFP program at the university. So that's where a little bit of the disconnect occurs in this space. Now, we have had students go through and into the legal field. We have had people matriculate and go into the investment management, BlackRocks of the world. We've had them come in and go to fintech. We've had them come in and go to insurance, private equity. So students will go where their career takes them, but we want to equip them with that path and support along the way.
And is a lot of that more on the soft skills side? Like I might go do my finance degree, it's teaching me like CAPM and whatnot, but I need to know how to properly engage a client and like the ethics and everything in the space.
Yeah, that's a very insightful, the perfect way to ask about it. Yeah, we don't really teach in any of our education like the hard skill part, right? Like we're not teaching you how to analyze cash flow and what that means. We spend it all on like how to engage with clients, how to network, how to build up lasting relationships, how to communicate more effectively, ask better questions, set vision statements, go through goal planning, do a Colby or DISC assessment. So we do those assessments for the students too, so they understand like how do I operate, who do I work best with, how do I communicate with others. We're entirely focused on that. I always, if people don't see me and you're listening to it, I always put the hard skills and soft skills in air quotes, because the reality is if you've been in the professional world, you know that the quote unquote soft skills are the harder ones, and they actually more determine your future than the stuff you can teach people, which is the numbers based part. So we stay out of that. We think that there is better education on that side, less support and investment into the next generation on the soft skills part.
Okay, maybe that's a natural pivot into, where's the industry evolving towards? Like you mentioned, there's more CFPs over 80 than under 30. With that, I'll call it the lack of talent entering the space. Like where are we seeing the trends? How are clients wanting to be engaged? How are firms like yourself adjusting to that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you can go a lot of different ways. And what's the future of this business? And I'll start with some of the talent part. It's not all bad news, right? There are some good news. The number of CFPs has continued to grow. That's good news. The number of universities offering it has continued to grow. It's just not growing at the rate we need it to grow. So it's growing, but not fast enough. One of the things, though, it doesn't concern me as much as some people, because I do think what we're going to see, and I think it's just a reality, is that we're going to have fewer and fewer advisors serving more and more people due to the efficiencies of better practice management and processes and the efficiencies that technology can provide. So when you pull those two things together, as an industry, we should get more efficient, and over time, we should need less people than we need today. The challenging part is that when you look at the data like Cerulean, the custodial data around small firms, is they really haven't found operational efficiency or technology efficiency yet. We're still kind of serving the same number of clients we served 20 years ago.
Right.
Now, as you start to look at some of the larger firms that have been able to create an integrated tech experience or something close to an integrated tech experience and drive some of that operational efficiency, the last 5 years, we have started to see those firms start to differentiate. And for 20, 30 years, people said, well, there's no real difference. It has started to finally change over the last 5 years, that the largest firms that have put the most into tech and marketing are now growing faster than the smaller firms. The larger firms are now serving more clientele with fewer advisors and fewer support staff. So they're actually creating better margins, better growth, and more efficiencies, which is going to allow them to reinvest back in faster. This is pretty normal in the general business world. It's what's happened in most like economies of scale. It just took a really long time in our profession. The other really interesting thing about that kind of research right now is that the largest, fastest growing firms get the least amount of their clients from referrals. And there's an interesting dynamic, because for the longest time, the fastest growing firms got all these referrals from their friends and family, and that's actually shifted. The larger firms are getting clients from multiple sources, so they're not as heavily reliant on referrals. It's not saying that referrals aren't important. It's just that they're buying leads, they're doing performance marketing, their marketing's bringing in things, right? Their brand recognition is, they're acquiring other firms, they're creating new products that bring people into the business. So that's starting to shift. I do also think that we are moving into this time period where, I think there's a lot of debate on this. Are we going to move to be more like life planners? I don't, that's actually not where I see things going. But there are people who believe that the advisors are going to shift to be less advisory and more to life planners. I think we're moving to be, integrators, and I think we're heading out of an experience economy for most people to a convenience economy.
Right.
So how well can we integrate somebody's total life into one spot or a seamless area in which they can engage? The firms that can hit the easy button on that and pull more of life together are going to be the firms that really separate out there in the market.
And, we see talk obviously of the great wealth transfer, a lot of inheritance going from boomers down to their children. And with that children cohort, let's call them Gen Z millennials, we saw 2 years ago a big influx in the self-directed market. Are you seeing that flow through on the advisor business, where it is a bit more difficult to acquire a younger customer, and we've had to kind of shift our approach to win that sort of business?
So it's an interesting question. Most of the research I've looked at hasn't shown that it's been much different. Like for baby boomers at the same age, they weren't using advisors either.
Right.
Now, the longer term question is, do they stay in those models, or does it shift over time? There's kind of these studies called like money in motion. And the reality is money kind of moves to advisory only like 7 or 8 times across somebody's life. Like there aren't just continual flows for the most part. It's big life events trigger behavior changes and money movement. Marriage, divorce, job, loss of family, retirement. These tend to be the big ones. So it's not as different as it might seem. I also am of the opinion, and some of the client acquisition work that we've done is let's say the millennial group, they're probably not going to exhibit vastly different behavior than the last 2 generations as it relates to, ages might be 4 or 5 years behind where some of the behavior was. But, house buying was one of the big ones, right? That everybody was telling us, oh, millennials are never going to buy houses. Well, it just occurred 5 years later than the previous generations did. And now the housing market is where it is because millennials started buying houses finally. And so we don't have enough, we don't have enough supply, demand's super high, rates went up, and houses are still rising in prices. So I think to some degree that group will still want advisors and advice. My question is for what really is I guess they're probably around 20-ish now. Somebody's probably got a better number than that. But, the 20-year-olds today, they more grew up in a digitally native world where cell phones were a normal thing when they were kids, that everybody had them, that your accounts were online. I mean, for me, I'm 38, turning 39 in a couple months. We still, this is being a little facetious, but like we still played outside. We didn't have computers growing up. We didn't have cell phones in our hands. I think I was in high school kind of when I got a cell phone, right? Like my parents didn't have cell phones. I still remember using pay phones where I'd call 1-800 and like very quickly, instead of saying my name, be like, Mom, I need to get picked up and hang up.
I remember doing that.
Yeah. But like, so that's a different dynamic. Like we had to adopt to technology. So our trust of it is a little bit different than my youngest sister, even. Like she's a decade younger than me. She much more grew up in a digitally native world than I did. And I do think that behavior could significantly change for that group. What I see today is once the millennials have started to accumulate wealth, a lot of them have gone back into, they're using private bankers, they're buying homes, they're doing interest rate hedging, all the stuff we thought was going to disappear. We're seeing that behavior again. It's just a little bit later than the previous generations kind of started off in it. But I do think that self-directed nature of, being able to do most things by yourself is going to be more prevalent for the people who are 20 years old today moving forward. And so the relationship will change a little bit, right? It'll be more, how can we tie all this together? And then when I need an extra layer of help, I might look for that human contact point. But 80% of it, I'm going to start to look to just pull in digital resources and tools.
Yeah, it's a combating parallel, because a lot of them went self-directed, a lot of them got burned. So then naturally, where are you going to go to now? You're going to look for a professional to help manage that money. But like you said before, the advisor space encompasses a lot more than just investment management. It is on life planning or financial planning. And when you made the note on companies that invest in technology, if you're able to leverage that technology both to engage the younger generation, but you probably can free up a lot of your time from picking up the phone and calling your 60-year-old client and just having more of a digital relationship with that 20-year-old client.
Yeah, and not everybody wants the same interaction, right? I mean, I think that's also important to note that there's no magic solution out there for everybody. And disruptive technology tends to find new domains, right? Like you find the clientele that is not necessarily being served in the manner they want to be served today. And, I think a lot of people think about disruptive technology as something that was better than what came before it. It's not always the case. Like digital photography was way, way shittier, right? Than regular camera and whatever it was, silver film. But it disrupted because it found a new demographic that adhered to it. Like professional photographers didn't move to that originally. It was everybody else. And, I think that what you will see is a lot of that disruption occur in financial services. And, it has occurred with some of the self-directed options. And I actually talked to my team about this yesterday. I have a slide where I talk about market trends. And I say, look, like everybody has access to the products now. And that's part of what you're talking about. Is it used to be you went through an advisor or a broker, an insurance agent to get access to the product that they were the gatekeeper for. And that has fundamentally shifted. Yeah. So if you view your value prop as access to the investment products, right, you don't have a value prop anymore. That's been taken away.
Right.
But the ability to tie that together with your insurance and your tax filing and your state documents and your trust and house all that together and then, run that through some type of analytical program, that hasn't been commoditized or, broken down yet. It still requires a lot of work to do that. So I think that's where the value of advice comes in today. And, I think that we have to steer more into that. If you look at what consumers want today versus what they're getting from their advisory services, they're not getting private banking services. They're not getting estate planning really done. They're not getting tax planning done en masse. Actually, estate and trust and tax planning are the two biggest gaps between client expectations and service delivery in financial services today. So most clients are saying we want those services, and most are not receiving it. There's like a 50 to 60 point gap in expectations versus service delivery.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because, yeah, I always, we've, and that's about very focused in on the investment management space. And, what we end up hearing a lot from some of our advisor clients is they might target a certain return threshold. Let's call it like a 5% annualized return. I know that that's, 3 to 5% below what the S&P is tracking at. And to
Mm-hmm.
your point on, like this younger generation wants all this information at their fingertips. They can come in now and benchmark you, the investment advisor, to the S&P and really wonder why they might be paying for those fees. And that's probably why you have to transition that value prop more to the other services you're able to offer than just purely on the investment management.
Yeah, and it is an interesting conversation because I run into this misconception with people sometimes as they look at a total portfolio and they go, oh, like it returned 8%, but the S&P was 12, so shouldn't I just be in the S&P? Most of those situations, I mean, the underlying reason is because you were also invested in bonds and some portion in
Yeah.
cash. And look, like you can have underperformance in equity strategies too, uh, which you should be paying attention to. But a lot of times it's because you were benchmarking something against an inappropriate benchmark. And if I included all your cash accounts at your bank at 0 and blended those together, you're right back at like 5.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing. But I do think that there's been a lot of investment strategies that have been overcharged for and underperformed over the years. So transparency and better benchmarking in this space is really important because we don't want people sitting in, poor performance, high fee products and strategies.
Yeah, and everyone's, very cognizant of those fees now and ETFs versus mutual funds and other higher fee products. So, as there's more information pervading the market, you have to change your business model to service that or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing too that's occurred with ETFs is, a lot of people thought of ETFs as low cost funds, right? I mean, they are funds, but I think the average basis point, I could be off a little bit here. Somebody could probably fact check this one, but I think it's around 50, 51 basis points now for the average ETF, which is not necessarily low cost. Like, it's interesting. Like, it's actually, the fee pressure there hasn't come down as much as I expected it to. Now, if you go to Vanguard, like their average fee cost is going to be way lower. There are low cost fund structures out there, but there's a lot of ETF wrappers now with very similar internal fee costs as the mutual funds that we were seeing, a decade ago. That has been an interesting area where fees on those haven't come down as fast as I thought they were going to come down.
Yeah, I think, the index, like the passive ETFs, to your point, like the Vanguards, the BlackRock index funds out there are relatively low cost, but then you're seeing a big shift from mutual funds who might have been charging 2%, are now creating an ETF wrapper, to your point, and charging like 60 to 100 basis points. So it's still a bit lower, but there's probably some embedded fees within that one as well to keep that 2% all in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been a big fund flow dynamic, right? Is a lot of mutual funds now converting over, and that's a good thing because our system here in the U.S. of tax laws really generally speaking, it favors the ETF structure over the mutual fund structure. So it's a good thing to see the conversion, all things being equal. It's better for the client end of day in most situations.
So, Jamie, maybe to wrap things up, if there's a young individual out there who's looking to break into the finance space, maybe they're looking at FinServ, maybe they can't just yet. What are some tips on what they can do independently to try to build up maybe some of those soft skills or some of those hard skills if they want to break into this space?
It's a great question. I'll give a couple different recommendations. So in the US, if you're trying to become a financial advisor, I still think the CFP route is a good route. It doesn't guarantee anybody's a good advisor, but it removes a hurdle. A lot of places look for that before they hire. A lot of clients look for that nowadays too. It's a question, like if you Google like how to pick a financial advisor. Like almost every single article is like ask about their fee structure and if they're a CFP. So it's a big part of the kind of popular demand cycle right now. I also say find a mentor. I talked about mentorship earlier. It is really powerful. If you talk to a lot of really successful people, most of them had good mentors, but they often answer like this. They're often like, hey, I got lucky. I had a good mentor.
Yeah.
It's not as purposeful as it should be, but it's really, really powerful. It means to ask somebody, like find somebody, ask them to be your mentor. It's, you shouldn't have that hesitation. Worst thing that happens is somebody just says no. Like, I don't have the time and capacity for it. But typically, people are really nice about it because they feel really honored, no matter who it is, that you would even ask for, to be my mentor. Like people are going to be nice. They might say no because they might be full on capacity. The other thing I would say is start to find groups of peers that are moving through the world kind of as you are. To some degree, when you're early, you don't think about it this way, but like you should try to start that mastermind group that you're going to be part of as early as possible. If you look at a lot of the innovative disruptors and leaders out there in our space or broader spaces, a lot of them grew up with, groups that they just kind of formed over time that they, when they had a question, they'd ping it off of them. They look for people who were been through what they haven't been through yet. Interestingly enough, I spent the last week, I spent about 4 days with Richard Branson, which was like one of the best experiences of my life. But, he talked about that a lot, right? Of having great mentors around. And every time he started a new business, his very first thing he did was hire somebody who could run that particular business better than him. And that is like, he's like, if I was starting a business, I had to go find that person every single time. And I thought that was, it's a very similar thing. Like you surround yourself by good people. And so when you're early on, you're not going to be hiring people, but you can start to find those other people in your career. I led the FPA Next Gen retreat this past year, and that whole group that was in my cohort, they all created a Slack chat together, and they still are in there talking to each other, 6 months later. And I told them, like, you're all going to be in this profession for the next 40 years together, right? Like, so get to know each other, learn,
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, yeah, maybe we could leave it there. And if anyone is interested on joining FinServ, what's the best place for them to go to apply?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's FinServFoundation.org, FINSCRV foundation.org, and there's an application right in there. So for somebody looking to apply to be a fellow, which you're thinking, end of college, that there's an application. If you're somebody who wants to mentor young individuals, there's a mentorship application on there too. And then we do screening calls with everybody before anybody's accepted in. So we do talk to every single person. But yeah, we'd love any support there. Or if you're interested and want to join FinServ, feel free to fill out the application.
Okay, amazing. Jamie, I really appreciated you coming on today. It was a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Cameron.